To all units, proceed to your post assignments. All units, proceed to your post assignments.
So the message is pretty clear that we the people, own this country, and that we are going to respect the rule of law, and we are going to stand up, and we are going to protect our democracy.
No kings, no thrones, no crowns.
There ain't no king, ain't no king in the USA. We're rising up, he ain't God, he ain't no fool, no matter what he said.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
Take a look at your screen here. This is Benjamin Campbell. He's from Atlanta and was arrested in Cobb County, Georgia. He's being held there, waiting to be extradited back to North Carolina. Campbell faces multiple charges, including felony assault with a deadly weapon. Now, the entire encounter was caught on camera. We brought this to you weeks ago here on Fox Carolina News. You can see a man park at the business, then go across the street and tear down the Trump banner off of a sign. Now, this is from last month at the Paddle Inn Rafting Company in Swain County, North Carolina. The owner told Fox Carolina that he saw this happening live and went outside and fired his rifle twice in the air. Then, as the man drove off, video shows him raising his gun out of the sunroof of the car. See that there? The deputies say the suspect, Benjamin Campbell, is the man with the gun that you see in this video.
Any slight breeze can carry odors from this home to next door. Northwest D.C. resident Josefa Ippolito Shepard says for several years that odor was marijuana smoke coming in through vents in their shared duplex wall.
So I started feeling very nauseous. That's how it starts. Headaches follow, very, very strong headaches within the hour. And then I start vomiting nonstop, convulsion type.
Neighbor Thomas Cackett, who lives in the basement apartment next door, did not respond to a request for comment. However, in court paperwork, he explains why he smokes cannabis. Now, he's a 73-year-old restaurant manager who's had numerous surgeries, and so he smokes cannabis for pain relief. He also testified that he just simply can't eat cannabis edibles because it takes too long and it also upsets his stomach. Court papers show that after hundreds of emails from Ippolito Shepard to her neighbor, she sued him in 2020. The D.C. Superior Court first rejected her case. The D.C. Court of Appeals said her case deserved a second look. This Monday, a civil court judge ordered Cackett to never smoke cannabis inside his home or be held in contempt of court.
This was approached from the public health perspective, solely from the public health perspective. So that to me is a precedent.
When you live in a building, a multi-unit house, you don't live in a bank vault. The walls, the floors, the ceilings, the windows are porous. They leak.
James Rapace testified as an expert in secondhand smoke for the D.C. court hearing.
Whether you're smoking joints or bongs or pipes or whether you vape it, these instruments will produce much more smoke than will a Marlboro cigarette.
I think this is a wake-up call for cannabis users that we need to advocate for outdoor spaces and social use spaces.
Adam Eidinger led the push to legalize cannabis in D.C. and wants this case to lead to a push to allow outdoor public smoking.
If you're smoking on a public street in Washington, D.C., it's not fair that you could be arrested or face a $25 fine, have to get fingerprinted, get your mugshot taken.
Ippolito Shepard has this advice for anyone troubled with smoke coming from their neighbor's home.
Try to negotiate with your neighbors. It's not fun to go through the court system.
Yeah, baby, it's episode 3 of Probable Cause on October 21st, 2025. Jeff Norman and FBI whistleblower and my friend Greg Dillon with you, as we always are on Tuesday nights at this time. Top of the evening to you, Greg. How the heck are you?
Very good. Thank you, Jeff. Good evening to you.
I find this well, first of all, I should say that the news report we showed about the stinky weed story is an old story. This has been going on for 5 years. And so this was after an order was issued by the court that the guy can't smoke his weed at all. So then he appealed, and the appeals court just ruled, and the judge said he can't smoke within 25 feet of this woman's house. So that's just one of many things that I find mind-boggling. And I think we need a legal expert. And next week, we'll have one. George Furco, former state and federal prosecutor and former law professor, will be joining us. But let's try to stumble our way through it. You at least were a law enforcement professional, whereas I'm just a clown. But the name of the episode tonight is Can We All Get Along? And I'm mindful of how there's the law and then there's, well, let's just try to work it out regardless of what the law is. So if I were this guy who lived next door to the woman, I take her word for it that the smell is very bothersome to her. They share a vent. It's a side-by-side townhome or whatever it's called. And I would just go to the other side of my unit and open the window and exhale out the window. I would think that would solve the problem. I don't know. So,
Jeff, I noticed that when I watched it the second time, he was in a basement apartment in the house next door, correct?
Well, I don't know if it's basement or ground level. I thought they're side by side.
I'm sorry, it might have been ground level. Yeah, ground level.
Yeah.
And she was on a second floor apartment of the building adjacent to his, correct?
I thought they were side by side on the same level. Is that?
The footage, the video that they showed, it looked like they were separate. But I was confused because the expert that they interviewed was talking about how smoke and odor permeates walls and floors and ceilings and that type of a thing. So I guess it makes more sense that they were within the same structure and not with any separation.
Well, no separation except for the wall.
Yes, right.
All right. But what I'm getting at is I don't know if they're side by side, then it's not going to do any good for him to go from the front of his place to the back because they share the wall going that way. He would have to go to the other direction. So I don't know how narrow his apartment is. In the ruling that I was reading, they said, well, he's got to stay at least 25 feet away, even if that means not smoking at home. But guess what? It's illegal to smoke outside in Washington, D.C., to smoke marijuana outside.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, if we're trying to strike a balance between these competing considerations, how does that strike the balance? That the guy has nowhere to go.
Yeah. No, I thought about it. I mean, the woman seemed quite reasonable in the fact that she had sent him over 100 emails trying to work out some sort of a compromise. So he wasn't like, like the nightmare neighbor that nobody wants to have. But it's him wanting to indulge and her being physically affected by it.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to know more information than what has been provided in these news stories. She does seem reasonable, and she's saying, well, it wasn't successful, but I'd like to know some specifics about what he said or did in response to all these efforts he made. He told the court that he's got a medical problem. He needs to smoke. He only does it for a few minutes each evening.
But the judge did not buy that.
Well, but he has a full-time job, so I don't know how often he could be home. Also, pot is really, I've heard, not that I would know from personal use, but weed is really strong nowadays. So, it's just hard to imagine anybody just smoking constantly.
And the gummies, he said, didn't do it for him because taking too long to work, that's not much of an excuse.
Well, it might be depending on his medical problem. You can't regulate it really when you do it that way.
Okay.
If you're smoking, it happens right away. But not only that, you'll know how much more to smoke.
I get you.
If you need to.
Gotcha.
When you eat it, it's like you got to guess.
All right.
But he said it also makes him sick, the gummies.
Yes. But I mean, the problem is it's now making his neighbor sick.
So I mean, I don't want this woman to have to live this way, but I don't even understand how the judge has the authority to issue this kind of a ruling. The argument that the woman made seems to be an argument that should be made to lawmakers.
Yes.
I mean, it's legal. It's legal. How can you tell somebody?
And he's in his own residence. So yes.
Yeah. I mean, what else can a judge say? Oh, you can't do it, that it's legal if it's bothering somebody. I'll give you an example from my own life. I recently moved because the neighbor down below me was too noisy. Now, there are laws about disturbing the peace, but she wasn't breaking any laws. You know, like everywhere the specific laws are different, but you know, it's like but if you hear loud music above a certain decibel or from a distance at a certain hours, that kind of thing. So she wasn't actually violating the law, but she moved in with her little kid. Her little kid is, you know, like a little kid running around making noise. She was a fanatic about cleaning, so I was always hearing her like clanging around cleaning and mops and brooms or what. I don't even know what's going on, but that's what it sounded like. So it was driving me crazy because I work from home and I'm more sensitive than the average person to noise. Okay. But I realized I'm the weirdo. Okay. I mean, she's kind of the weirdo too, but I didn't have any legal argument.
Right.
So I realized I have to move out. Moving out is a huge pain in the ass, but that was the calculation I made. Should I have sued her because she was taking away, what's the wording they said? You can't enjoy peace and quiet in your home and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. That'd have been, I think that would have been a loser. And I think you made probably the smart move to avoid, you know, a prolonged battle in court that likely would not go your way and would just create, you know, harder feelings. And I think that was the smart move. Just pick up and go.
Well, that's another thing that was weird. In the report, she said she wouldn't recommend having to go through the court system. It went on for 5 years. So you have to ask yourself, is that really less burdensome than moving?
True.
Yeah. True. Unless she had one of those rent control apartments or something, and there was like, you know, she has no money and there was no way to find another affordable place or something like that. But otherwise, I think as much of a pain in the ass as moving is, it would be less stressful than 5 years of litigation, not even knowing if you're going to win, too.
Correct. The thing is, though, I guess, Jeff, what you have to do is go back and say, well, you know, what is the catalyst behind this thing? You know, why is this happening? And it's because of the action of this gentleman that's created this situation. You know, she's responding to something that is taking place. She's not initiating it per se. So, but you know, I mean, in his defense, he's not breaking the law by using the cannabis, and he's in his own on his own property inside of his own dwelling. So I understand how the judge seems to be maybe overstepping a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so. And like I said, you know, of course I wouldn't know from personal habits or anything, but I know it's not that big a deal to just open a window and exhale out the window, even if it's cold.
Sure.
Because you're not, like I said, the pot is so potent that it only for a couple of minutes, you take a few hits and you don't even have to go outside. Just if you have a door or a window, just stay inside and then exhale out the window.
I mean, couldn't he devise like a little bit of like a funnel system with a tube leading out the window and just blow right into the tube to get rid of the pot vapor?
Yeah, or hire somebody to do it. I mean, they have to figure out who has to pay for it, but hire somebody to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So do you think George Furco can shed some light on this and on the logic of the ruling and what it means for maybe other similar situations when people are bothered, but the person that's bothering them isn't actually breaking the law? That's the
correct.
thing.
Yeah, no, I'd be very curious actually to his take on this, because I suspect he's going to favor the defendant, which would be the pot user.
Yeah. Well, of course, we got to read the ruling, and I think if I work a little harder at it, I can find it, but doesn't mean I can interpret it as well as he can. But let's see if he can shed some light on that next week.
Yeah, yeah.
So we also saw in the openings the No King demonstrations. That's not exactly a legal controversy, but I'm curious about a couple of things, because I know you're not only a former FBI agent, but you were a Branford police officer. So I imagine you might have worked at demonstrations before, right?
I'm dating myself, but I actually was involved in the security in Meriden the 2 years in a row when they had the Ku Klux Klan come in for an organized rally. And we had to provide, the barrier between the counter protesters and the Klansmen.
Well, that's one of the things. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one of the things I've always been curious about. Because I have attended rallies before, usually as an observer out of a curiosity. I like to sort of, I'm like a drama queen, rather than being all that passionate about one cause or another. And I mention that because it's relevant to my question, because what I noticed a lot at these demonstrations is exactly what you just said. The cops separate the two sides. And there's a certain logic to that. I get the logic. But what authorizes them to do that? Who are they to decide which side I'm on? What if I'm on neither side, which in fact I'm not in some of these cases?
Well, in that particular instance, the KKK had applied for a permit to assemble. So our being there was anticipatory of potential confrontations. Yeah, I don't want to say we were protecting them, but I guess we were protecting their right to assemble because they had taken out a permit in advance, applied for it, and we were there to ensure that there was no violence, basically.
Well, I'm not questioning the logic. I'm questioning the authority. So, and I also want to ask you about the permit thing too. It's funny that you mentioned the very two issues that I'm curious about. But let's go with the first one first. You just explained what the reason was. Like I said, it's logical. But I show up, and who are you to tell me which side I'm on?
Well, I don't think we assign sides. I think the people choose which side they are trying to get to, and then it becomes obviously confusing. Like, well, are they there because they want to confront the Klansmen, or are they there because they want to?
Right. People can fake it. They can say, "Hey, I'm on the other side," and they want to be there and agitate. Yeah.
The problem is if you decide to do that and you end up in the middle of the Klansmen. We may not be getting to you as quickly as you would like to.
That's true. There. That's true.
So, but no, I mean, we were there to keep the peace. I mean, no different than if you have police officers at a parade or police officers at a strike.
Perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. I guess I'm just. It's been so long. I don't have that vivid a memory, but I seem to remember cops bossing me around a little bit too much and.
Well, those were very charged environments. They were emotional. The speech of the KKK speakers was inflammatory, probably intentionally. The protesters were equally, emotional, and we were there to try to keep it as peaceful as possible, because in previous, years it had gotten out of hand, probably due to a lack of planning and a lack of preparation and a lack of manpower. So they learned their lessons, and now the idea was we're going to have an overwhelming presence there, and that will keep everything peaceful.
Right. Well, you mentioned that was it the Ku Klux Klan? Is that who you said got the okay? The KKK in Meriden, Connecticut, my home state. The Ku. Wow. So they had a permit. Now, in many cases, people who go protesting in the street don't get a permit, and they often don't even think about it, and they often get away with it.
Yep.
So the no brains people, I mean the no kings people, are patting themselves on the back because apparently there was little or no violence at all their rallies. But they might have broken the law. They probably did. I say that only because protesters generally do, because they think they can go anywhere. They think it's their First Amendment right.
Yeah.
But they don't have a First Amendment right to use any and all property anytime they want. Yeah.
Oh, just impeding traffic flow is a violation, right then and there.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you're not impeding traffic, there are plenty of other reasons why too. I mean, if there's a large amount of people, there's concerns not only about traffic, about garbage, about restroom facilities, security. I mean, these are the reasons that permits are issued, and they're supposed to be issued on a content neutral basis, meaning that you don't get denied or given a permit based on what your issue is. It's based on, the safety and what else is going on and so forth and so on. I had some disagreements with some of my beloved colleagues when we were discussing the pro-Palestine demonstrations going on at Columbia University and places like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were reacting as if I'm not sympathetic to the cause. Oh, it's genocide. What's wrong with you? Blah, 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 blah. But I actually was making a point that I make about any demonstration, which is that you can't take over property that's not yours if the people who control the property say you're not allowed to do it.
Correct. No, I mean, there are any number of different laws that are being broken simultaneously with that type of assembly.
Yeah. Now, if they get denied a permit because whatever the local government is didn't like the issue or something, that's
I don't think they ever do it because they don't like the issue. What they're going to say is, are you going to pay for the additional police officers? Are you going to provide porta potties for all the attendees? Are you going to clean up all the litter that will be left behind? And if they wanted to play hardball, they could deny them, legally based on that. But they tend to capitulate and say, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want to do, and we'll pick up the cost.
Yeah, it seems to me that sometimes the city, if it is a city, will pay for it, and sometimes they'll require the protesters to pay for it. Right? It seems like there's some inconsistency about that.
Well, I suspect that if you try to hold a pro-Republican or pro-Trump rally in New Haven, they would find a host of things to trip you up on in order to deny you the opportunity. But New Haven being a sanctuary city, and the majority of all the office holders, I believe, are Democrat. I'm sure that they would throw up enough roadblocks that it would never take place.
New Haven being the city where you won your multi-million-dollar lawsuit,
and where I grew up.
You grew up?
Well, not really, but then I lived there the first 24 years.
Where you were raised, where you... I'm just kidding. You're a very mature man. Very mature. So we also saw a guy who I guess apparently has TDS, as the kids say. He was, he's in, I don't know if he's my neighbor exactly, but he lives in the same state where I live now, North Carolina. I actually think he's probably hundreds of miles away, western North Carolina. And he was driving by, I forgot what the business was.
Rafting company.
Oh, rafting business, right. And he saw a pro-Trump banner, and that triggered him to the point where he wanted to tear it down, and then he even fired a gun. Let's take a look at that again.
Okay, your screen here. This is Benjamin Campbell. He's from Atlanta and was arrested in Cobb County, Georgia. He's being held there, waiting to be extradited back to North Carolina. Campbell faces multiple charges, including felony assault with a deadly weapon. Now, the entire encounter was caught on camera. We brought this to you weeks ago here on Fox Carolina News. You can see a man park at the business, then go across the street and tear down the Trump banner off of a sign. Now, this is from last month at the Paddle Inn Rafting Company in Swain County, North Carolina. The owner told Fox Carolina that he saw this happening live and went outside and fired his rifle twice in the air. Then, as the man drove off, video shows him raising his gun out of the sunroof of the car. See that there? The deputies say the suspect, Benjamin Campbell, is the man with the gun that you see in this video. Earlier this week, Swain County deputies traveled to Georgia to arrest.
Wow. Now, it's not in that report, but I read an article that, and this is a key point actually, because here in the video we only see the gun sticking out into the air.
Mm-hmm.
But I read an article that said the guy's got bullet holes in his refrigerator.
Yeah.
So that's a little different.
Two things, Jeff, that jumped out at me. One, I do not understand how someone thinks that they have the right to go on somebody else's property and tear down whatever sign they have up there. I mean, as offensive as you may find it, it is their personal property. It's their private property.
Of course.
So that's number one. Number two, obviously he has bad judgment because you don't want to pull out a pistol after you know somebody has a rifle.
Oh, well, I don't. Does he know that? I mean, he heard gunshots. I guess if you're a gun guy, you might be able to tell by the sound.
No. The homeowner said that he stood on his front porch holding his rifle and then fired 2 warning shots in the air. So I assume.
Well, we don't know. Yeah, in my mind, for some reason, I was just assuming maybe he heard the shots, but didn't.
Oh,
see
I get you. Okay, could be.
Yeah. And I'm not a gun guy, but would you know from the sound of it, or you'd have to?
You should. Yeah. You should.
Well. Are you packing heat right now?
Nearby.
All right. In case the podcast gets out of control, I just need to know. So, now you call them. You suggested the guy has the short guy syndrome because there was a photo of him. He's an accountant.
Yeah.
And there's a photo of him with some woman. I guess it was his wife, maybe.
who's doing her best to slouch. And it didn't help a whole lot. It made it look almost worse, I think.
Yeah. So he was arrested, and I don't know what his defense is going to be. Before I read the part about the bullet holes in the refrigerator, I was thinking he was going to maybe claim that, it was self-defense because the guy fired his gun first. But if there's bullet holes in his refrigerator and the guy really shot up in the air and there's no evidence otherwise, I don't know. Yeah,
that's going to be kind of a tough alibi, I guess. Or
there are, my mother lives in a, I don't know what you call it, assisted. I don't think it's assisted living. Well, what's one step below that? Where
independent living,
where they give you meals, but they don't have, they don't provide you with medical care.
Independent care, maybe.
Yeah, whatever it's called. Anyway, so in Branford, I can't remember that street. It's right off one of the exits of 95.
Cedar Street?
Yeah. Ever see those Trump signs there? There's 3 of them. Yeah.
He's had those there for some time now.
And I wonder if he's gotten away with it. Is Branford a Trump town? I mean, Connecticut is blue, right? But maybe not that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, Branford itself is kind of purple. I think they've had Republican and Democrat selectmen there in the past. So I guess that one could go either way. I get the impression it's more Democrat than not, but he's been doing that for some time now. So yeah.
Yeah, it's more than one, actually, but I think there's one guy, I guess, has an especially big sign that's very prominent.
Yeah, and there's also another gentleman that lives in Branford that you can see his signage from 95 when you are driving southbound. You almost can't miss it. It covers.
Catherine Graham has a legal question.
Okay.
I would say yes, it is legal, unless there's some other extenuating circumstance. But on the face of it, isn't that legal?
I would say it's also legal. Yeah. Of course, I saw someone now putting up a sign that said 8647, and there was some discussion online whether that may cross a line into illegal.
I don't see how, because you're advocating that you want him to be killed. You're not making a threat that you, the person with the sign, are going to do it. I mean, it's an ugly thought. I'm not trying to say it isn't, but it's
not a good look either.
You can have ugly thoughts if you don't make a threat to do it yourself, don't you think?
Well, it's a real gray area because at some point it's going across the line, but it's a hard call as to what actually makes it, become.
Well, that's what Comey did. Comey did with the seashells. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think it's gray at all. I think it's clearly.
No, but I'm saying at some point it gets less, it gets darker than lighter when you start saying, death to the president. And you're like, okay, well, you're not saying you're going to kill the president, but you're calling for his death. And then, then it could be.
Well, this is another question for Mr. Furco next week.
Yes, and I think
my understanding it's about imminence. In other words, inciting a riot is if you're in front of a mob and you say, "Hey, kill that guy now," and they jump on him and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, "I think Greg should be killed," and a week later somebody does it, then that's not a crime.
Yeah.
Sorry to put you in the example there.
Yeah. Let's go to straw man next time and not me, please.
Especially since you're armed. I should have known better. All right, what else is in the news? ICE agents can be arrested. What?
Yeah.
What? They usually do the arresting.
Yeah.
This is because they were going into courthouses with a warrant for whomever. And if they happen to find other people who they deem to be illegal immigrants, or possibly, they would arrest them. And so now the judge is saying, no, you can only arrest the people that you have a warrant for. What do you make of that?
Well, he might very well be in his lane to say that, but he went one step further and said they could then be arrested themselves.
Right. Now, this is very much in your wheelhouse because we mentioned that you were a Branford police officer, you were an FBI agent, you also were a court officer.
Yes. Yeah.
So can you imagine if this situation was going on in the court? Would you want to take on ICE?
No, I would refuse. I would refuse the order. But I think the judge could have found a middle ground and said, if they do that, we will have our police officer apply for an arrest warrant for that ICE agent and then request that he be arrested. But to do it on scene, in real time, that's a big mistake. You don't want armed officers arresting armed officers. I mean, it's just, first of all, it's a horrible look. And secondly,
I didn't read the ruling. I get what you're saying, but did the judge say specifically arrest them on the spot, or did he just say arrest and then which means it could be either or, I guess, if he didn't specify, right? Yet you could arrest them on the spot.
I guess he didn't, but I got the impression was that they would be arrested if they tried to do it. And I take that to mean in real time right there on the scene.
Right. Well, I guess not every city operates in the same way, every courthouse. In your case, you were an employee of the state of Connecticut when you were a court officer. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Chicago, do we know, let's say theoretically somebody was going to arrest an ICE agent for this. What agency would do it? The Chicago Police Department, or is there some other agency that is in charge of policing the courthouse?
Oftentimes sheriff's departments run courthouses. I don't know if that is nationwide or if that's just, most states have it that way. I mean, I think that's how they do it, but they're called, bailiffs. They're called special sheriffs. They have a variety of, Connecticut now they call them judicial marshals. They don't even call them sheriffs any longer.
Right.
But they're usually, under the authority of the state. But again, state authority does not supersede federal authority.
Now, the judge's reason makes sense. He doesn't want people to be scared away from court. They may be needed as witnesses and so forth. And while that's understandable, again, I'm saying, does the judge really have that authority? I mean, does the Constitution say that you can't arrest somebody in a courthouse if you happen to find them there, if they could otherwise be arrested? I don't think the Constitution says that, do you?
No, I don't think there's any restrictions on where you can arrest someone. I mean, obviously it's a horrible look, but you can go into a school and arrest someone. You can go into a church and arrest someone. You can go into a hospital and arrest someone. Do they recommend you do that? No, absolutely not. The optics are terrible, and it creates even more of a controversy than necessary. But that doesn't mean you can't do it.
What you need is the two words above my head, probable cause, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't
And if you have a warrant, I mean, that's even a stronger
then you
case
can like go into
arrest.
private property and do it, right? Yeah.
Then it starts to get into a little bit of a trickier issue whether, I mean, the arrest warrant gives you authority to arrest the person, but you have to be on in a private residence, either with a search warrant or the residence has to belong to the person that you are looking to arrest.
Right. But if
it's a
you're in a
third-party
place,
premise, you can't.
if you're in a space that's open to the public,
Correct. Yeah.
you can do it.
Yes.
All right. Well, ICE wants even more surveillance powers. I guess face recognition apps and things like that. Are you familiar with this technology?
Only from what I read. I was out of the game by the time this was coming into play, but I do try to stay abreast of the latest developments. And it looks like they have a variety of electronic assets that they can employ now to make them more effective. Yeah.
I guess if you don't like ICE and or you don't want the immigration laws to be strictly enforced, and you might be against this, but otherwise, I don't know, why be against it unless it's excessive, too expensive? I don't know.
They're going to claim it's an invasion of privacy, but then again, that's going to be an issue for the courts to decide ultimately.
Well, in France, I don't know if we should model ourselves after France, but there was recently a major heist, as the kids say, of jewelry at the Louvre in France. And I wonder if they had extra surveillance technology there, they might have prevented it. Let's take a look at the clip.
This morning, the hunt is still on for the thieves and priceless missing items from the Brazen Daylight heist. This video is still the only image we've seen of the operation in progress. Widely shared by French media, a man in a high-vis vest, perhaps disguised as a maintenance worker, inside the lavish Apollo Gallery. Sunday morning's heist has captivated, well, everyone.
They're calling it like, the break-in of the century. I mean, it's something like out of, Danny Ocean and George. I didn't see George Clooney yet.
As questions mount about the massive security failure at the most visited museum in the world, a leaked audit report to French media finds that the Louvre routinely deprioritized security upgrades. The justice minister saying the whole incident gave France a deplorable image.
Otherwise, France has a great image, right?
No, I was going to say.
I don't know why they put in that stupid George Clooney quote from that one.
Yeah. That's
now,
a head scratcher, that one. I mean, I'd like to even contemplate pulling that off. I mean, that is about as brazen as you can get.
I know from personal experience. Did you hear in the report they said that they think the guy the guy or guys were dressed as maintenance workers?
From what I read, it was four robbers, 2 dressed as maintenance workers and 2 just, thieves.
See, that's what it takes. You just have to act like you belong there. I myself have done that. Now, in my case, I committed a different crime. I think it would be theft of services. But I guess I should say what I did. I snuck into many years ago, I snuck into a Bruce Springsteen concert at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. It was totally spontaneous, the specific way we did it. But I went with a friend. It was sold out. And we were, trying to buy tickets from scalpers, and they were ridiculously expensive. And we were circling the building, looking for ways to sneak in. And then we walked in, because you can go to a certain point before they collect your ticket. And so we walked in, we're looking around. And all of a sudden, I see my friend. He didn't say anything to me. He didn't tell me he was going to do this. But he went over to an area that was roped off, and next to it was a trash can. So he takes the lid off the trash can, and then he unhooks the rope thing, and he just walks through carrying the trash can. And I'm like, just standing there. He didn't even tell me he was going to do it. So I'm looking at him and the trash can on the other side of the rope. And I'm looking at the lid on the floor. And I'm like, what am I going to do? So I walked over and I picked up the lid and I did exactly what he did. I unhooked it and then I walked in and nobody said anything. Nobody noticed us. And we walked a few feet and there was a maintenance elevator. We didn't know where it would go to or anything, or even if it was operating, but we hit the button. The doors open, we get in, we press a button for whatever floor, doors open, and we're in. We're in like, the area outside where people would come out to buy refreshments or use the restroom. Yeah. So I can relate.
Kudos. That was a very, very clever scheme you had there. And it was spontaneous, which makes it even better.
That's right. The old lid, the trash can lid routine.
Yeah.
So what were you telling me before we went on about what these thieves are maybe going to do with what they stole?
Well, I read some articles, and one was an interview of an art theft expert, and two things that he said that just didn't. I don't know. They didn't really make sense. He said he suspected that the group was hired by a criminal organization to pull this off, which I don't know. That just sounded unusual that he would have that theory. And second, he said they would break up the pieces for the gemstones and melt down the metals, and that's how they were going to make this profitable. And I was thinking all along, it's $100 million. The value is $100 million. I thought that they may try to have the nerve to ransom it back to the French authorities, as opposed
that
to
sounds pretty risky, though.
Well, it is, but I can't even imagine the loss of the value once you broke apart those pieces. I mean, melting down the precious metal. What are they talking?
I don't know. What's the value after that? What do we know?
I mean, what's it going to be?
Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is?
I mean, the metals are going to be gold. So I mean, it's not even going to be a gold bar when it all comes down to it. Or if it was silver, the same thing. It's not going to be more than a silver ingot worth of metal.
Well, people steal art, and then I guess there are collectors who will buy it even though it's stolen.
That Gardner Museum in Boston, Jeff. I mean, that was a $500 million art heist, and who knows if anybody ever made a dime off of that so far? Because what are you going to do when you have that unique piece of art that everyone?
Yeah, your friends come over and you proudly show that you have stolen art.
Everyone recognizes it's stolen, so you can't brag about it very much because someone's going to collect the reward on you. So I don't know.
You're right. Like, what is the best bet? Is the best bet trying to do a ransom thing, melting it down?
They're saying they're going to recut the gemstones, but I'm thinking, well, the value is going to go down drastically as soon as you try to recut those stones. I would have thought that you would break into a high-end jewelry store that had, less security, and now you don't have to recut the stones. But now when they said you got to recut the stones and melt down the metal, it just struck me as like a bizarre thing to take $100 million worth of artifacts.
Now Somerville John's saying, or there's already a rich buyer. Well, maybe so, but what we're asking is, what's the rich buyer going to do with it?
Yeah.
Show it to his or her friends and say, look at my stolen property, or just enjoy it themselves?
Yeah.
Is that what you do? You walk around your house with the Marie Louise necklace? Of course,
there was a book that was written about a young couple that went around mostly New England, stealing all sorts of bizarre, rare items, paintings and swords and you name it. And he filled his whole bedroom, floor to ceiling, wall to wall, with all of these very rare, like paintings and little sculptures and metals and vases and silverware, and they just enjoyed it themselves.
They enjoyed the beauty themselves, right?
Yeah.
It is beautiful, so I guess
Yeah.
it's not the craziest thing.
Yeah. I don't know. The thing is, Jeff, they've also left behind so many pieces of evidence that I find it hard to imagine that they're not going to be caught. I mean, they left behind the grinders, a blowtorch, a blanket, gloves. I mean,
A
there's
car too. They tried to set their car on fire, I guess, to destroy the
There's got to be
evidence.
just ample DNA evidence that's left behind, possibly fingerprints, and I don't know. I can't see how they can make this a successful getaway.
All right. Well, the thing is, we're not thieves, so we're having trouble thinking like a thief.
Yes.
But you've dealt with a lot of thieves.
Yes. Yeah. And some of them plan very well out in advance, and some of them are just not forward-thinking people. Let's put it that way.
Somerville John is officially labeling Larry Ellison the leading suspect. All right. Well, we have one more story, and that is maybe this is one that's more for Mr. Furco next week, but let's at least mention it. This has been an ongoing battle. Does Trump have the authority to deploy federal troops? And in the latest round, Trump won.
Yes.
But this was, as I understand it, 3 judges. I don't know how they decide procedurally how this all works, but 3 judges decided in a 2-to-1 decision that Trump does have the authority. And now the other side is trying to get the entire appeals court, which I don't know how many judges that is, 10, 15, whatever that is.
Well, it's probably going to be 9 or 7. It's usually an odd number.
But how is it determined? Like, why not just go to all of them to begin with? How is it determined whether, like, on this date we're going to have 3 judges decide, and on another date we're going to have 9? Is there any rhyme or reason to it?
For the efficiency of the court, they will usually use a 3-judge panel because.
So other judges can deal with other cases? Is that why?
Correct. Yeah. But for a case of national impact, then they can request and oftentimes will convene the full court to decide an issue.
Right. So I guess the issue here is people don't dispute that Trump has the authority to use them to protect federal buildings, but to assist the local police, I guess that's what they're disputing, whether or not Trump can just declare it to be necessary, or whether it's subject to judicial review, whether or not they're needed to assist in law enforcement.
Well, I think the 3-judge panel found that the president is allowed a certain amount of latitude in his discretion of using National Guard troops up to a 90-day period, I believe, was the limitation that they had set.
And so the same thing or similar circumstances are going on in other cities too. So this is probably a key case, right?
Well, it could be. I think eventually it's probably going to end up getting kicked up to the Supreme Court so that their decision would have nationwide application instead of these doing it regionally, and getting different results. I think eventually the strategy is to eventually get it before the U.S. Supreme Court for a full decision.
Our friend Hassan in Iran has a theory. There may be political implications. Well, maybe be more specific, Hassan. Like, what would the political implications be? Are we supposed to guess? Maybe. So you want to make a prediction about the troop issue, or are you rooting for one side or the other? Or
I would like to see him have the authority to deploy them when and where he sees fit. I don't think he should be restricted or handcuffed because he has the authority to do that. They're challenging his authority to do it, but I think that the court eventually is going to side with him and say, yeah, he has a certain amount of latitude in his power, and this is within that that scope.
My friend Vanda addressing me as Jeffo. This is her special nickname for me. Hello, Vanda. Well, yeah, I mean, the other thing is it'd be easier for the court to just say that Trump has the discretion. Otherwise, they're going to have to come up with criteria.
Yes.
And I don't know.
By the time we meet next Tuesday, when George joins us, that may be resolved by the full panel of judges.
Right. All right. Well, I'm very much looking forward to that, and I hope that you nice people join us next Tuesday night. Also, I'd like to mention this Thursday night on the Winers, our guest will be U.S. congressional candidate Jose Vega. So that's Thursday night at 7 p.m. All right, Greg, thanks a lot. Thanks to our beloved audience. All the best.